Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 30-minute message from Family Matters today. Thank you for joining me. My name is Abby Mars. I'm an educational support coach here at Family Matters. Please remember that Family Matters is not a legal service or legal agency. We do not provide legal advice, and nothing we say to you should be misconstrued as legal representation. I will take some time this afternoon, or today, I'm sorry, in the next 30 minutes for questions, but I'll look back at those at the end. I don't know why your audio keeps going in and out. Okay, anyway, so let's get started. Remember that Family Matters is one of the two parent training and information centers that serves the state of Illinois. We are funded under the U.S. Department of Education, but our ideas, information shared, and opinions, or they don't necessarily reflect what the U.S. Department of Education would put out there. So, okay, let's get started about accommodations and modifications. So Family Matters serves all 94 counties outside the Chicagoland area. FRCD serves the Chicagoland area, but that doesn't mean back and forth. We don't go and share ideas with each other, share presentations, so if you are in the Chicagoland area, please stay on the webinar for sure. Learn more about it. And same way we refer people to FRCD to watch their webinars. Family Matters is primarily an educational helpline, meaning parents, caregivers, teachers, and self-advocates call us with questions regarding their special education and their rights and responsibilities to it. We also carry the state's educational surrogate parent program. We carry the state's grants for the educational surrogate parent program, and which means that we train volunteers throughout the state to serve as an advocate for students who are within the care of the state of Illinois and need special education. We also have a COMPASS group. COMPASS stands for Coaching Others and Mentoring Parents About School Services. So it's how we train volunteers to become support for parents when they go into a meeting or to prepare for a meeting. And that's like 10-week training course that our volunteers take. We have self-advocacy vlogs that feature Bridget and Zoe. We offer educational trainings, much like this one, and brand new is our Family Matters podcast. We employ 2 full-time educational support coaches, Carrie and myself. I don't know what's going on with audio either, guys. So we have 2 educational support coaches, Carrie and Abby, that work full-time. So what will you be learning today? What are accommodations? Examples of accommodations? What are modifications and examples of modifications? And what are the differences between the two? So what are accommodations and who are they for? So some students with disabilities need accommodations in their educational plans. This helps them to take advantage and be part of the education environment that's within the school. These can be fulfilled both through IDEA or the federal regulations that serve students that need specialized instruction, or under Section 504 of the Disability Act. If you remember our 30-minute message from last week, we talked about the difference between the two plans. Both of the plans can help support students in different ways, but they both provide accommodations. I don't like this presentation mode, guys. I'm sorry. I think that's why the audio is so bad. Okay. An accommodation allows a student to complete the same assignment as other students, but permits a change in the timing, formatting, setting, scheduling, response or presentation. An accommodation does not alter what the test or assignment measures. There's lots of different types of accommodations. So at this time, if you can think of a type of accommodation that might help serve a student in their environment, whether it be in the education or the workplace, please type it in the chat. So types of accommodations are organizing and skills, timing accommodations, like maybe a student receives extra time to finish an assignment or extra time to finish a test, or maybe taking the time portion out of it completely. It might be even a seating accommodation. My own student, we have found it works so well for him to sit close to the teacher or paraprofessional in the classroom, not for one-on-one support. It just helps bring his focus back. So there's lots of great accommodations that can be added to any plan. And some of them I really like in here. So flexible scheduling at work or at school, love that one. Notes to follow along with. I love it when we can get a student a printable version of the teacher's notes, especially for our students that struggle to copy notes from a board or copy notes down as a person is speaking. Extra time to complete their work. These are great accommodations, guys. You did a wonderful job here. Use of technology to perform a task. I love that one as well. So remember that accommodations are not changing anything. They may add to it, but they're not changing what the expectations of our of the students are. I use the accommodation in the workplace of audiobooks. So say that Carrie and I are in a book club together and we're doing a training. I might have the book that we're supposed to be reading. I might do that in audio format because it just helps me better to hear it in audio format. There's maybe instead of writing out a report, a student could then do a presentation of the report, like a poster board or something. Where as long as what we're grading is what if the student understands the content or not. Now we're going to talk a bit in just a second about accommodations, so we'll revert back to that in just a second. Ooh, I switched off of it again. Sorry, you guys. Everybody still see? Okay. No, why does it keep doing that? Okay, there we go. So, like we talked about, accommodations can help every student. Okay. In some way, accommodations can help the students. It helps to remove the barriers that they're facing in the classroom. These are very, what's pictured here is very common accommodations, but accommodations don't have to be common. We can think outside the box to find out ways to accommodate the student and help them. So these are some great examples, like use a spelling dictionary or digital spell checker, like and with your writing a document. So this was really helpful with one of my kiddos. They were really struggling to write a book report. And when they turned the book report in, they used the computer to do it. They lost a considerable amount of points because they spelled things incorrectly. And we had not shown the student that using the support of a spell check, of course, everybody's a Chromebook now, so I'm a Microsoft girl, so this was different for me to learn. It could help that student to get a better grade. So we made sure we wrote the accommodation in that we would remind the student they could use a spell check when doing writing assignments. That way they didn't lose points for things that they just didn't understand how to use as part of the Google Chrome or Google Slides. You know, they all have spell check on there. Something like Grammarly might also be an option. That's an app that could be an accommodation. My daughter uses an app on her phone called Make Change, and it helps her to make change when she's having a financial transaction with someone. So if she gave them a $20 bill and her total was $8, that would show her exactly what bills or coins she was supposed to get back. So it's an accommodation that she has for daily living skills or work skills even, or in math class. Seating accommodations, like we talked about a little bit ago, huge. They go so far with students. Now, remember, both the student with a 504 plan and an IEP can have seating or have accommodations of any kind. So, seating accommodations, maybe they need to be in a quiet place. Maybe they need to sit closer to the teacher or closer to a window or farther away from the door. I have students with anxiety that we have it written in their plan where they don't face their back to the door because they're anxious about who could come in the door. Lots of different examples of seating accommodations. Does anybody else have another seating accommodation they'd like to put? Standing desk. Oh, I love that one. Oh, a wiggle seat. I like that one, Ashley. Higher desk for a larger student. Yes, that's great. Or a higher desk for a student in a motorized wheelchair. Seen that one too. Okay. Timing accommodations. More time, less time, frequent breaks, checking in periodically throughout the assignment to make sure the student's on task. Time accommodations can go really far for your student. Same way for scheduling accommodations. What days will we complete certain tasks? Will we break them up into pieces? Will someone help me and stay on task to make sure that I'm getting everything done? A huge scheduling accommodation that we see a lot is writing assignments down in a notebook or an assignment book or a daily planner, and someone making sure that we've wrote those down appropriately so we can schedule our time. Organization accommodations, these are huge, and we see this carry over a lot into the workplace as well. Well, do I need the support of timers? Do I need the support of color-coded folders? Can I have a study guide? Can someone help me to learn study skills? I think we forget a lot that our students sometimes don't know study skills. Yes, you absolutely are able to request a standing desk for a student in the classroom. So, how I help parents to or students or caregivers or teachers to really highlight the need for their accommodation is the because. I really like the because. So, Megan needs a standing desk because she does better when she can have more movement in the classroom. Then you could give examples of when Megan wasn't able to have the standing desk in the classroom, how that impacted her education or how that put a barrier in place for her education. So I really, this is the next slide. I really like to highlight that because. So let's talk now about modifications, unless I know there's a lot of audio issues, guys, but not everybody's having it. So I don't know whose fault it is. I'm sorry. Okay. So some students with disabilities need accommodations in their educational program in order to be successful in school. But IDEA and its regulations don't offer a definition for an accommodation. However, there's a general agreement as to what the term means, and we talked a lot about that. Some students, however, need modifications, and it's these students that need modifications to the curriculum that they're learning that shows that they need specialized instructions. So students who need modifications to what they're learning, we're changing what they're learning, are going to receive a special education plan, and our students that don't need that but may need the accommodations are going to have the 504 plan. Modifications adjust the expectations for an assignment or a test, and it permits a change in what a test or assignment is measuring. So, like I said before, my student that gets to do a poster board project in order to show that he has learned the content in a history class, that's an accommodation. But if he's doing the same thing in a writing class, that's changing what we're trying to log or record or see the progress of what the student's learning. So if the goal of the class is to format and write a paper and my student is maybe writing a smaller paper or doing it in poster board form, we're then changing what the student's learning and therefore changing what we're testing or monitoring for the student. These are some common modifications that can be in a plan. So complete the assignment differently, like we just said, answer questions differently. So maybe this is, we're again back in spelling class, okay? We're in spelling class and we're trying to see if the student is memorizing how to spell certain words. This student, however, gets to pick out the word from a group of three, so they don't have to memorize. Then we're changing what the student's learning, okay? Whereas like an accommodation in a spelling class might be, we're only going to ask the student 3 spelling words a day instead of all of the 15 at one time. So we're not changing what that student's learning because he still has to memorize how to spell the word. But this other student, we're asking them to pick out the word from a field of 3. Curriculum modifications. A student may learn different materials, such as accounting, to work on a multiplication, while his other classes is working on fractions. So he's in math class with his peers, or he's in math class, and his students and next door to him, the seat right next door, is working on multiplication. He may be working on addition, or they're working on fractions, he's working on multiplication. So they're all still working on math, but we're changing what this student is learning. Now, why are we changing what he's learning? Because we've evaluated the student and seen that the student needs specialized instruction in this area. We've measured him. He's not at peer level. He may be a little behind peer level, a little to the side of it. So we're starting to modify what he is learning. The whole goal of that then is to get him back to peer level. So we'll do things like trying to close the gap. Modifications curriculums focus on what the student can do. We modify, adapt, or accommodate before changing the activity. We use the least support possible at first, like obtrusive support, so we're not going to, impinge on there. We use age-appropriate materials, goals, and activities when planning how to adapt. Not all students learn the same thing or in the same way at the same time, and that is okay. We, of course, measure our curriculum process, just like we do with everybody else. Hang on. Yes, to answer everybody's question, there is a recorded version of the PowerPoint. I will go back and review it to make sure there's not any audio interference, since we've had a couple people say there was, and you will get an email copy of that. Okay, so we measure the modifications that we're giving, and we show that the student is making progress with that modification. If they're not making progress, we may need to modify it in a different way. All again about progress monitoring. We're going to have another 30-minute message about that soon. But here's an example. Same task, same materials, same task, easier step. This is a great visual here. Questions to consider. What is everybody else doing? And can Mikey participate just like everybody else? If the answer is yes, let's go have fun and do it. If Mikey cannot participate like everybody else, that does not mean that we can't include Mikey. We just have to alter how he's participating so he can still be a part of the classroom. So what is everybody doing? Can Mikey participate just like everyone else? If the answer is no, what can we do to include Mikey? Can we give Mikey some help from his friends, which is always a great way to start? Can Mikey have a peer buddy? And if if we can, who can give that? So if Mikey maybe is, say we're in cooking class together. It's a great example. We're in cooking class together. His peers have a higher math functioning level than Mikey, so they may be able to understand fractions a little bit better than Mikey. He's still working on his fractions. That doesn't mean we can't let Mikey be part of the cooking class, okay? His disability would impact that, and he gets to be part of the cooking class too. Can we give him a peer that can help him understand and start to learn about fractions? Because we all learn by doing, right? So if the macaroni and cheese box says to put 1/2 of a cup of milk in there, what can the peer ask Mikey to do while in that cooking group to make sure that Mikey is part of the cooking group and can start to learn those fractions? That's a great example. My daughter had this problem. She's struggling to understand box directions. This was during COVID. We were at COVID home learning, and we were working on making mac and cheese. And her brothers and were in the kitchen with her, and she started to dump the milk from the box into the pan to make the cheese sauce. It was cheap mac and cheese. And she was putting in 112 cups of milk so we noticed after a minute that she was putting more than that 1/2 a cup in. I think we were doubling the recipe. So her brother's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And she said, the box said put 112 cups of milk in. What the box said was to put 1/2 a cup of milk in. So her brothers were able to say, no, Kira, is a half. It's a part of a cup. And of course, she was struggling to understand this concept, but it's a way she could start to learn in her peer environment. And maybe Mikey still needs extra support, and can an adult help, and who? Can Mikey use different materials? What materials, and how will they be used? So at this point, can Kira use a different material to learn about fractions? Who can help her to learn about that? Well, I can. And how will they be used? Well, we're going to give her this extra curriculum at this such and such time to learn this to get to peer level. And then what else can Mikey do to relate to what is going on in the classroom? So we really want Mikey to be included, even though he's doing a different peer area work. Now I've been trying to ignore the chat so I don't get distracted, but this is a very good question. So I'm going to address this at this point. So what you're saying regarding modifications, if a student is in the 9th grade general ed class, but his level of understanding based on evaluations and assessment of math grade is at a 3, then he should be doing working level of a 3. So he should be doing working level that is appropriate to him. So expecting him to do 9th grade levels of work in math class when his is at a 3 is setting him up for frustration and failure. But how can we include him to be part of that class? So like the example, so a 9th grade gets into lots of math that I have struggled to understand, like equations and linear, whatever. Okay. This other student who's at level 3 isn't quite ready for that algebra work or the geometry work, but what can we give him? What kind of curriculum can we give him to adapt to his peer level? It's out there. We may have to think outside the box, but we also have to look at what educational setting is best for the student to learn in about that basic math skill. Now, we don't really talk about educational settings or placement in this presentation, but that is something that we could focus on. Would it be better then for that student to take math in a classroom with peers that are at a math level that he is or close to, because the instruction would be better for him, and then find out a way to integrate into the other math class to reinitiate those skills, or maybe join the math class when they're doing certain things. I'm having trouble with math because I know part of math is fun for me. So I'm trying to think of an activity you would do in math where you could include the student that's taking a different type of curriculum in with this one. Math is a hard one. So again, an accommodation changes how a student learns the material. A modification changes what a student is taught or expected to learn. Yes. Identify the barrier the student is facing. Make the request. If it isn't working, revisit and make changes. It's okay to ask for ideas. Know your rights as a student, as a caregiver, and as a parent. Ask the student what they want. Ask the student how they learn. I would have never known that Kira was struggling to understand those fraction concepts unless we were in that place at that time trying to make that box of macaroni and cheese, right? Then we got to see, okay, all of her class have been working on fractions. I can't remember what grade my kids were in when COVID happened. I think 6th or 7th. You know, she's at peer, we thought she was at peer level, but she's missing the grasp of this, or she's missing the grasp of that. What step did we miss somewhere in her learning process? So we were able to observe the student and ask questions of the whole team to figure out what type of modification she would need to learn. Resources. Common Accommodations and Modifications in the School. Understood.org is a great resource for that. The differences between accommodations and modifications. Understood.org again has a great resource. Classroom accommodations. Chad is my go-to. If you're a parent that calls me that says my student has and he needs to learn better in the classroom, Chad's gonna be one of the first places I check. Again, you can download a list of common accommodations for students with ADHD, and you're able to take that list, go through the accommodations they list, and think, would this be good for my student? Yes, it would, because, or I'm already trying this, so I know it's good for my student. This is why, because. More about understanding accommodations. And this is our disclaimer. So at this point, I'm going to stop the recording and we can address some questions.